What's bubbling, magical people? Welcome back to the Witching Hour with Miss Merlin. Today we have a very, very special Halloween or Samhain episode for you guys. As most of you know, our podcast is your one-stop source for everything spellcasting, ascension, healing, tarot, mediumship, psychic gifts, spirituality, the history of witchcraft, chakras, plant medicine, and much, much more. I'm Kimmy, aka Miss Merlin, High Priestess and Shamaness, medicine woman, psychic medium, and witch extraordinaire. So let's jump on our broomsticks and meet me in the Crystal Coven Room. As I said, special episode today. We are talking about Halloween, Samhain, beautiful, beautiful, spooky, spooky night. Love it. Okay, so the colors that are associated with today are black, orange, and purple, of course. All right, but those are your magical colors for today if you wanted to light some candles. You're going to be working with flowers of marigolds, chrysanthemums, rosemary, and mugwort. Those will be your flowers and herbs that go with the energies of today. So we have a very thin veil, all right? So make sure that you're putting your protections up, okay? Your wards, whatever you want to call it. This really signifies the cycle of life and death and rebirth. It's a powerful turning point in the wheel of the year. This is actually in like the witch's wheel. This is Halloween is our New Year's Eve. Okay, so this is the new year for the witch's wheel. It's when the spiritual activity is at its highest. So again, make sure you're putting your protections up. All right. And this is a great time for doing any form of divination. That is actually one of the ways to kind of celebrate the energies of Samhain or Halloween. It's great for ancestral communication, making contact, and releasing negativity. So we're going to get into some of the history of Halloween, how it's changed a little bit over the years, where some of the traditions come from, and things like that. So I really, really hope that you guys enjoy it. Okay, so Halloween's origins can be traced back centuries. Most point to Samhain, okay? It is spelt Samhain. So it looks like Samhain, but it's pronounced Samhain. Okay? It's a Celtic festival which commemorated the end of the harvest season and the blurring of the line between the physical and spiritual worlds. Since the veil was so thin, it was believed that it was easier for druids, spiritual people, Celtic priests, and anyone who is gifted to channel prophecies and connect with ancestors and the other side. Prophecies were an important source of hope during the long and dark winter months. They would have huge bonfires, make sacrifices of throwing things into the fire. They would also make animal sacrifices back then as well. And they wore costumes of animal heads and skins to ward off ghosts. And they, again, engaged in divination and told each other's fortunes. It was, like I said, the New Year's Eve and the end of the pagan calendar. The New Year was November 1st. So the history is by AD 43, the Roman Empire had conquered the majority of the Celtic territory. Two festivals of Roman origin were combined with traditional Samhain celebrations. The first was Feralia in late October, when the Romans commemorated the passing of the dead. The second was a day to honor Pomona, the Roman goddess of fruit and trees. Pomona's symbol is the apple. which is likely the origin of where bobbing for apples emerged from. The apple also containing the powerful talisman of the star in the center. Over the ages, the holiday evolved and taking on a lot of Christian influences and European myth and American consumerism. Today, Halloween is celebrated with trick-or-treating, costumes, jack-o'-lanterns, scary movies, and all things which would likely be unrecognizable to those who took part in the holiday's earliest forms. So this is how the early Catholic Church kind of Christianized Halloween. So in the 7th century, the Catholic Church established November 1st as All Saints' Day, a day commemorating all the saints of the Church. By the 9th century, the influence of Christianity had spread into all the Celtic lands, where it gradually blended with and supplemented older Celtic rites. In 1000 AD, the Church made November 2nd All Souls' Day, a day to honor the dead. It's widely believed today that the Church was attempting to replace the Celtic Festival of the Dead with a related Church-sanctioned holiday. Much like a lot of the stuff that happens around Yule or in the holiday season, okay? All Saints' Day celebration was also called All Hallows or All Hallow Mess, from the Middle English All Hallow Mess, meaning All Saints' Day. And the night before it, the traditional night of Samhain in the Celtic tradition, began to be called All Hallows' Eve, and eventually Halloween. Over many centuries, the three holidays, All Saints' Day, All Souls' Day, and Samhain, essentially kind of merged into one, Halloween. The Catholic Church still recognizes All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day today, and some Wiccan and Celtic traditions commemorate this as well. So I know a lot of us love candy, and I know a lot of us have kids who are really excited to go trick-or-treating tonight. So we're going to talk about kind of where that came from. So in the Middle Ages, trick-or-treating emerged in England and Ireland during All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day celebrations. Poorer people would visit the houses of wealthier families and receive pastries called soul cakes in exchange for a promise to pray for the souls of the homeowner's dead relatives, known as quote-unquote souling. The practice was later taken up by children who would go door to door asking for gifts such as food, money, and ale, an early form of trick-or-treating. Also, in the late 1800s, there was a move in the U.S. to mold Halloween into a holiday more about community and neighborly get-togethers and less about ghosts, ghouls, scary stuff, tricks, and pranks. Because we're going to get into how the tricks, the pranks, how all that started, just coming up shortly. At the turn of the century, Halloween parties for both adults and children became the most popular and common way to celebrate. Parties focused on games, foods of the season, and festive costumes. In between 1920 and 1950-ish, the centuries-old practice of trick-or-treating was revived, and the focus was on the young children and communities as a way to share celebration with your entire community. In theory, families could prevent tricks, again, we'll get into that, being played on them by offering up a small treat. Thus, the tradition that we know today of trick-or-treating was born. So the modern way of it. Now I'm going to talk about jack-o'-lanterns. So how did this start? The practice of carving faces into vegetables became associated with Halloween in Ireland and Scotland around the 1800s. Jack-o'-lanterns originated from an Irish myth about a man nicknamed Stingy Jack, who tricked the devil and was forced to roam the earth with only a burning coal in a turnip to light his way. People began to make their own versions of Jack's lanterns by carving scary faces into turnips or potatoes and placing them in their windows or near doors to frighten away Stingy Jack and other wandering evil spirits when the veil was thin. Isn't that interesting? So that's where the jack-o'-lanterns come from. I love it. All right, so like I said, a lot of this stuff comes from Celtic stuff, and how Halloween kind of comes to the U.S. and that it happens in the 19th century, and it comes with some mischief, unfortunately. So millions of Irish fleeing from the Irish potato famine helped popularize the celebration nationally. The immigrants celebrated as they did back in their homelands, especially by pulling pranks. Here we are with the pranks. In the late 1800s, common Halloween tricks included placing farmers' wagons and livestock on barn roofs, uprooting vegetables in barnyard gardens, and tipping over outhouses. By the early 20th century, vandalism, physical assaults, and sporadic acts of violence were not uncommon on Halloween. Ooh. So when the Great Depression hit, this is where haunted houses come in. And it kind of goes along with what we just talked about coming into the 20th century with the vandalism and acts of violence and things like that happening Halloween night. So haunted and spooky public attractions already had some precedence in Europe, starting in the 1800s. So if you're following the pattern here, a lot of this stuff started around the 1800s, or probably before, but that is probably when they started taking a record of it somewhere. All right, so starting in the 1800s, Marie Tussauds Wax Museum in London featured a chamber of horrors. And this had a lot to do with the war. They had really gory stuff in there, actually, if you look into it. In 1915, a British amusement ride manufacturer created an early haunted house complete with dim lights, shaking floors, and screams. In the United States, the Great Depression kick-started the trend of haunted houses. By then, violence around Halloween, vandalism, things like that, and no doubt exacerbated by the dire economic conditions, had reached new highs. Parents, concerned about their children running amok on All Hallows Eve, organized haunted houses or haunted trails, hay rides, such and such, to keep them off the streets. So that's kind of how that started. Isn't that interesting? So it wasn't until about the 1950s that Halloween costumes go mainstream, even though we know, because I've already told you, that it goes back farther than that. People used to wear them to scare away ghosts and evil spirits and as part of a ritual for Samhain. So costumes and disguises have figured into Halloween celebrations since the holiday's earliest days. But it wasn't until the mid-20th century that costumes started to look like what we know them as today. Around the same time, neighborhoods began organizing activities such as haunted houses to keep kids safe and occupied. Costumes became more important and less abstract and scary. They began to take the form of things children would have enjoyed, like characters from popular radio shows at the time, comic books, and movies. In the 50s, mass-produced box costumes became more affordable, so kids began to use them and dress up as princesses, mummies, clowns, and more specific characters like Batman and Frankenstein's monsters. And I'm sure you guys have probably seen pictures of those. Like, it's so creepy. It's like the creepiest thing I've ever seen. They were like these like plastic, I don't even like smock things that you wear over your clothes, and the masks were like so incredibly creepy. Like, I know there's a picture floating around online. I've seen it a few times, and it creeps me right out. It is a picture of like a classroom. Somebody took a picture in the classroom, and it was all these kids with those plastic masks on and those costumes that I'm talking about. And it just looked so creepy and insane. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's just insane. Okay, so let's talk about where the poison candy and why we have to check our candy. Why and where did that come from? So that started not too long ago, actually. It started in the 80s. That's where the fears about the poison Halloween candy reached new heights. So there was some fear before that, but it like really reached a peak in the 80s. So while in general the fears about poison Halloween candy had been overblown, crimes involving poison have occurred. The most infamous case took place on October 31st, 1974. That's when a Texas man named Ronald O'Brien gave cyanide-laced pixie sticks to 5 children, including his own son. How disgusting is that? The other children never ate the candy, thank goodness, but the 8-year-old son did. Oh, and Timothy died soon after. That's horrifying. Oh my goodness. The paranoia reached new heights in the early 80s after the rash of Tylenol poisonings in which cyanide-laced acetaminophen was placed on store shelves and sold. After the Tylenol murders, which are still unsolved to this day, that is creepy too, warnings about the Halloween candy increased. All right, so that's enough with the morbid stuff. So let's get into like what you can do to kind of honor the day and ways that you can celebrate it. Okay, so we're going to get into that. So the very first one and the easiest one you can do is to make an ancestral altar. All right, you can put some flowers on there, some things that are important to you, some pictures of some loved ones that are on the other side, anything like that. Anything that you have inherited from ancestors. I have some things from the war from my grandfather and some medals from my great-great-grandfather and some other things like that. So I make a little ancestral altar with that and just some crystals, whatever I kind of feel guided to. And then again, if you are making an altar, you're going to want to use the colors of black, orange, and purple. You can use marigolds, chrysanthemums. You can use rosemary. That's wonderful. And mugwort, okay? Because those are, again, the herbs and flowers for today. So, going along with the theme of ancestors, you can also have a silent supper. The silent supper is a traditional Samhain ritual where a meal is prepared and eaten in complete silence to honor the dead. The table is also set with an extra place for the spirit of loved ones who have passed, inviting them to join in the feast. The silence is maintained to show respect and create space for communication with the other world. So to be in like a meditative state so you can commune, all right? Because like I said, the veil is super thin So it is a great time for divination, and divination is the next thing on my list. Anyways, prepare a meal with seasonal ingredients, such as like root vegetables, apples, always, hearty grains. And as you eat, reflect on your ancestors and the gifts that they have given you, and listen for any messages or any insights, any feelings, any, songs that play in your head, anything that comes through that may come to you in that stillness, right? Because again, great time for divination. And when you're opening up that channel and asking for your ancestors to engage with you, that is very, very, very powerful energy, especially on the night of Halloween. All right, so the next one on my list is scrying and divination. So Samhain is an ideal time for scrying, which is a form of divination that involves gazing into a reflective surface. So it doesn't always have to be reflective. Some people scry in clouds. Some people scry in fire. And if you're doing a bonfire, you could do fire scrying. That would be a great way to honor the energies. You can scry in water, although that is a reflective surface. But yeah, pretty much in anything, really. So you're essentially trying to receive visions or insights, again, feelings, anything, psychic insight. All right, traditionally, you scry with a black mirror or a bowl of water. Also, a crystal ball is like a form of scrying also, because when you're connecting with the energy of the crystal ball, you're seeing visions or, again, getting feelings, however it is that your psychic information comes through for you. Also, divination, right? So tarot cards, runes, your pendulum, reading tea leaves, whatever form of divination you feel the most comfortable using, it would be a good time to ask for some things that you want to know, okay? And if you don't feel comfortable doing it yourself, then go and get a personal reading from a tarot reader that you trust, okay? Collective readings, I'm going to tell you this right now. Collective readings, they're great sometimes, but they can also throw you off, because a lot of times, and I've seen it with this community, has exploded, right? And there's the whole like twin flame thing. I'm not going to go into it today. That's a whole other podcast. But people are doing like these readings all the time. And I see so many people get caught up in these readers that, they have these gifts, but they're really not at a consciousness level yet to be using them in the way that they're using them. Like they haven't learned enough wisdom to catch up to their talent, if that makes sense. Okay, so often a lot of them are projecting their own situations, right? And then a lot of people like take that to heart. Like, this is actually what's happening right now, what this person is saying. And they could go off on a whole spiral about that. And that's what I don't like about the community. That's what like disheartens me about it. But anyways, so if you don't trust yourself with your divination, then also now would be a good time to go to a trusted reader, okay? Or astrologist, whatever you feel drawn to do. Okay, it'd also be a really good time for, Reiki sessions or, healing, clearing, things like that. A really, really good time for all of that kind of stuff, because we're in the energy of death and rebirth, okay? So shedding what is no longer serving, all right? So letting go of all of that heaviness, stuff from the past, emotional stuff that we're hanging on to, stories we've told ourselves about limitations, stories that replay in our heads that other people have told us. that have to do with their own expectations and their own limitations and their own beliefs and all of that kind of stuff. And, it can throw you off sometimes with your goals and your dreams. So don't let it. So speaking of forms of divination, another kind of ritual or form of divination that went very, very closely with the energy of Samhain, it was very simple, like Samhain rite, was apple peel divination. Apples, huge in these energies, of course, because it is apple season. So apples are a symbol of magic. They are otherworldly. They lend themselves perfectly to a straightforward divination practice during Samhain. You find a quiet space, hold a fresh apple while focusing on a question or intention. Slowly peel the apple in one continuous strip, keeping your mind centered on the guidance that you are seeking. Once peeled, toss the strip over your left shoulder and observe the shape that it forms on the ground where it lands. The peel may reveal a letter, a symbol, or a shape that may offer you insight into your question that you asked. Record your impressions and consider how this message might guide you in the coming months, or how it affects you in the question that you asked. The apple peel divination is a traditional, easy, and meaningful way to connect with the energies of this day. Also, feasting, of course. The harvest of the flavors of right now, the flavors of fall. So this was the time when they had the final harvest before they had the cold winter months come in. So they had a final harvest festival. Samhain is the celebration with the feast of the final harvest. It honors the season's bounty and the transition into the darker half of the year. Traditional Samhain foods are rich and hearty, warm, comforting, usually infused with the warmth of spices to chase away the chill of the autumn nights as the weather gets cooler. Okay, so making like soups or chilies, things like that. And I always think like, those are potions. You can't tell me they're not. Like, you're putting all into like a heated device. You're mixing together a blend of spices and vegetables and plants, right? And then for those of you who eat meat, you're putting animal parts in there too, right? And you're stirring it and like you're making it with your energy, right? Whenever you make like a soup or a stew or something like that, that's a potion, dude. Come on. You can't tell me it's not. So you'd want to like use stuff, like I said, that's autumn-y, right? Root vegetables like potatoes, carrots, turnips, roasted, or simmered in like comforting stews, like I said, or soups, or chilies in your slow cooker, okay, or like I say, your electric cauldron. And then anything that you make with apples. Apples are the symbol of wisdom and also the connection to the other world. You can make pies, you can make cider, I eat them as is. Add them in a bowl on the table, okay? That beautiful bright color that they bring to your room. Okay, so you also might have some hearty bread, okay? If you're worried about carbs, maybe leave that one out. Anything made with pumpkin, also pumpkin dishes. Anything spiced with cinnamon, cloves, or nutmeg. Now, okay, those are the main ingredients, minus, I think, 2 things in pumpkin spice. All right, so pumpkin spice season, for anybody who says, ooh, I don't like it, or ooh, I hate that, take that as a red flag, okay? Because those are the spices that are used to ward off like evil spirits and things like that. And like I said, they're the main ingredients in pumpkin spice. So if, like I said, if someone tells you they hate it, just put that in a little, file it away in the back of your mind for later and keep that information in there. You're going to want to know that. I'm telling you right now. Okay. So, but all of those things, the cinnamon, the cloves, and the nutmeg, all evoke the essence of this season, right? And that whole warmth and the comfort energy. You can make a nice simmer pot too. That's always lovely. I love doing that. So rosemary is always great. It's also good for keeping away negativity and evil spirits and entities and things like that. So you could put some rosemary in, some cloves, some nice citrus if you want to, cinnamon, and again, the nutmeg, and yeah, anything else you're kind of feeling that you want to throw in there too. You could even, leave the citrus out and make it with apples instead. And you have that on your stove in the kitchen kind of on slow, like, oh my gosh, your house just smells incredible. So you just stir your intentions kind of into that simmer pot and then have it going, like I said, slowly. Like, make sure you're not leaving the house or anything like that. We don't want to have fire hazards, okay, people? Okay? Never leave things unattended. But if you're going to be home for an extended period of time, you can leave your simmer pot on low and just let it fill your house with those beautiful energies and the beautiful smells. And again, that's the beauty of witchcraft. You can add anything you're kind of feeling, right? Anything you're intuitively thinking of or that pops in your mind when you're doing this kind of magic with simmer pots and things. You're thinking about it, throw it in there, okay? But also, I want you to go look it up too online, like Google, what is the spiritual meaning of whatever you felt the need to throw in there, okay? Because there's probably a meaning to why you chose that, right? And everything has an energy that goes with it, all right? And always trust yourself. Always trust yourself. You're thinking of something or something's coming to you on purpose for a reason, all right? So go with it. Go with it. All right, for a truly, like I said, magical touch, make something yourself. Make yourself a potion, all right? Like a soup or a stew or a chili or a loaf or a cake. You could also, another tradition that they used to have way, way back was you bake bread or a cake or like a cupcake. It was like a smaller cake type of thing, like a cupcake, right? And you embed a small charm or a token or a coin. Please make sure you clean it really, really well first, okay? Don't just grab one from your piggy bank and drop it in the batter before you cook it. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. Like, of course, you're going to burn off a lot of the stuff when you're cooking it, but, like, seriously, please clean it first. Just because it'll drive my brain crazy if I think that people aren't doing that. I can't explain it, but it will. It'll drive my brain crazy. It makes my eyes hurt just thinking about it. Oh, I know that doesn't make any sense to any of you. Okay. Anyways, this tradition adds like that element of fun, but it also like connects you to that ancient custom. Okay, it's a divination celebration that's been a long, long part of Samhain traditions. So whether you're going to cook for a crowd or maybe you're going to be enjoying a quiet meal by yourself and spending the evening alone, but whatever you're feasting on, okay, even if it's just like a bowl of soup to yourself, let it be a time of reflecting and let it be a time of gratitude, a celebration for the harvest, all right? Even if it's the stuff that's in your bowl or on your plate is not stuff that you grew with your hands on your own land. Okay, it doesn't matter, even if you didn't make it with your own hands, if you just opened a can of soup and plopped it in a bowl, that's okay. All right, just be grateful for a moment as to where that food came from, because it grew somewhere. Okay, the celebration of that harvest and the mysteries of the season, like the autumn and Halloween. It's just such a mystical, magical time of year. It really is. And it's so beautiful in so many parts of the world. Like, we really, really get spoiled in some parts of the world. It doesn't last very long, which is the whole thing with Mother Nature. Seasons. But man, it's beautiful. And there's just an energy to it. There's a magic to it. All right. So make sure you're utilizing that magic. You could also create spirit dolls. So crafting spirit dolls is a traditional Samhain activity. It allows you to create a tangible representation of your ancestors or your spirit guides or your deities or angels, whatever you connect to, using any natural material like twigs. Corn husk is a really, really popular one. Fabric scraps. You fashion a small doll that symbolizes a loved one or a spiritual protector. And you can adorn it with whatever you want, dried flowers or, little bits of ribbon or like that, the twine kind of, that's what I'm trying to think. It's not wool ribbon. Twine is probably a better way to describe it. But anyways, use your creativity. But if you're going to do that, try to use like natural materials. And when you're creating your doll, focus on the qualities or energies that you're honoring when you're making this, right? Because this is essentially what you're inviting into your life. So these spirit dolls can be placed on your altar space that you have. And if you don't have an altar space, maybe if you just keep like a special spot in your home where you like have a candle and a crystal or, whatever. If you have a few things that are important to you and you like the energy of them, all right, you can put it there. That's great. That's or like I said, if you have a few things from one of someone special who's passed away, you put it there as well. And that helps you stay connected to those who've passed on, and also invites in that guidance from the spiritual world. Because if you're making something like that, right, it's essentially an offering. It's an invitation. Okay, gone over this before. We as humans are gifted free will, right? So our guides and deities and ancestors and angels and all of them cannot intervene unless we ask them. So if we're making something in honor of a certain ancestor, in honor of a certain deity, in honor of a certain angel, right, and you're putting that somewhere special to you, that's essentially an invitation for them to come in and intervene in your life and help guide you to your highest good, all right? And again, the more that you engage in these energies and the more that you engage in the signs and synchronicities that you're receiving, right? So say you are getting bombarded with number signs, okay? Numbers in succession of 3s, that's a popular one, all right? When you start looking up those numbers as you're getting them, okay, and getting those messages, you're going to start attracting more signs and synchronicities because you're engaging with the energy, right? It's like having a conversation with the universe, okay? It's reciprocal. You are looking something up, like you are saying what you are saying, right? You're putting your energy in, and the universe is answering you back with another synchronicity, right? It's just getting to know the language of the universe. Okay, so this is another old custom as well. You could make bone rattles. So a bone rattle is a powerful tool for connecting with the spirit realm. Making your own is also very meaningful because it's like your own energy. You're putting your own stuff into it. Like, I love making all of my own tools. Like, I don't make all of my own decks, but I try to, like, I make my own rune sets and wands and, things like that. More of your own energy and your own spin on things, your own creativity that you can put in your craft, the better. Always. It's just more meaningful that way. So, back to the bone rattle. So you would collect small bones from an ethical source, okay? Or you could substitute with like sticks or shells or something. Shells are great. Attach them to a sturdy handle, such as like a piece of driftwood, a carved stick. You could also use like a shell from like a coconut or something like that, from like a piece of fruit, from like a natural source, right? So as you shake the rattle, the sound is going to call forth the spirits and ancestors. It's also like when you make it yourself, when it's that potent energy, it's very, very protective too. So before you would do anything else magical, you could just shake it around yourself just to kind of cleanse your aura, just to give yourself a little bit of protection. It's a very potent addition to any of your rituals. All right. So you could make it any time of the year that you wanted to, but it is a very, very old custom to do at Samhain. So it just has like a heightened energy if you make it around this time. So you can also make ancestor story stones. So this is also a really old one too. So you gather a set of small, smooth stones, and you can paint or draw symbols on them that represent stories, traits, or memories of the certain ancestors that you're thinking of. So you can go like to the craft store and you can get those like paint pens, especially like the metallic colored ones seem to like stick the best on things. For some reason, I'm not sure, but I've tried a couple different ones and they seem to work the best for me. Little trick for you. I hope that helps. But yeah, and you don't have to be artistic, okay? Just like whatever you want to put on there, whatever you feel. Like I said, when you put your own energy and creativity into your own tools and your own projects, it's just that much more potent and meaningful. And it could include like simple images like a tree, a house, or an object maybe that they were known for, or like a smiley face or something, just something simple. If you're not the best artist in the world, don't ever let that deter you from doing something, okay? Everybody had to start somewhere once. And who knows, after you do it 3 or 4 times, maybe you'll be super awesome at it. But you'll never know until you try. And that goes for anything, really, right? Of course you're probably going to suck on the first time. Most people do. I don't think Picasso was an awesome painter the first time that he painted, right? So, cut yourself some slack. We all kind of sometimes develop like this perfectionist thing, But yeah, let yourself be silly, let yourself fail. That's a big one. Big theme for right now. Or not even fail, because like we're not saying that you're going to fail at it, but like the option's there, right? Taking the leap of faith, knowing like you could fail, you could fall on your face. The option is there that you could like look stupid for some reason, like we all fear that so much. And I'm really feeling that as a collective theme, that a lot of people are just taking that leap of faith anyway. And that's really, really beautiful. All right. So back to the stones anyway. So go ahead and go for it, even if you're not artistic. That was the point. Sorry for the side quest. But for those of you who know me, ADHD. Okay. So use the stones in a storytelling ritual, where you can draw a stone at random and reflect on a story or memory that it represents for you. This activity not only honors the ancestors that you're thinking of, but it also keeps their stories alive and keeps that energy alive. And that is so, so powerful. And it keeps it really connected to your present life, right? You're building that bridge, you're building that connection. And like I said before, the more you engage, the stronger that connection's going to get, right? And that's powerful. That's some potent stuff, guys. So take advantage of these little things. You could also make herbal sachets for protection. Especially, like I said, right now, especially if you're sensitive, okay? The veil is really, really thin. And make sure that you're protecting your energy, all right? Protecting where you sleep, okay, at night. You might want to put some lapis lazuli and black tourmaline under your pillow, all right? Or, make sure you're protected. If you pray, you could say a prayer before you go to sleep, asking whoever it is that you pray to protect you, or if you have guardian angels, whichever one you connect to the most, you can ask them to protect you as you sleep, okay? So just make sure you're doing some added things at this time of year especially. So back to the herbal sachets. So you can combine herbs traditionally associated with protection. So we're already talking about rosemary, right? You could also add the sage, the juniper, and then also the marigolds or chrysanthemums are also part of the energies of this time of year. So you can place them in a small fabric pouch, and you can hang these little sachets by your door. You could, hang one from the rear view mirror in your car, put one in the glove compartment. You can carry it with you, place it under your pillow, like I was just talking about, making sure you protect yourself while you're sleeping, to ward off negative energies and invite peace into your home, and especially inviting peace and tranquility into your sleep space. That's always good. So if you were going to make like an herbal sachet for your bedroom, I drop a little piece of black tourmaline in it, like especially if it's going to go under your pillow, and a little piece of lapis. And I would also put some lavender in there as well, because lavender, the energy of lavender is so good for inviting peace and tranquility. And plus, like the smell of it too is aromatherapy for inviting peace and tranquility, especially if you're going to be putting it in your sleep area, like under your pillow. All right. So yeah, and just like I said, be creative with it. Anything that comes to mind, like if you feel like, I really feel like putting cinnamon in it, then put cinnamon in it. Okay. Trust yourself. That is like 99% of being a witch. Is just trusting yourself, trusting your intuition to follow yourself into what feels good for you, right? Okay, so you can also take a Samhain nature walk. That's also a very, very, very beautiful way to honor the day, okay? So take like a meditative walk in some sort of natural area, maybe near your home. So you're like kind of connecting the energies again. Observe, contemplate, reflect, really take in the colors, the aromas, the sounds, any other sensations. If it's safe to close your eyes, okay? Don't do this if you're near a road, please, okay? Always safety first, okay? But if you're in a safe spot where you can close your eyes, like just feel the wind on your face for a moment. Just allow yourself to have those little experiences and take note of them and experience yourself as part of the whole circle of life. Reflect on that aspect of death and rebirth as being an important part of nature and as being an important part of the process for yourself for moving forward, right? We have to let our past version of ourselves die off. We have to let those old things die off, those old stories that we tell ourselves, the old limitations we put on ourselves, the limitations others put on us. We have to let all of that die off. We can't, be carrying in these suitcases filled with like 20-pound weights, each representing some sort of emotional trauma we've had in our lives or something that's happened, right? Like think about that in a literal sense, right? Pack up. Like you've seen gold bars before, okay? Those are trauma bars, all right? And they're 20 pounds a piece. And you've got suitcases and suitcases full of them. How much easier would it be for you to move forward in your life if you put them down, right? Okay? Put the weight of them down. They're not serving you anymore. It's not serving you anymore. You've learned lessons from it, and be grateful for that aspect of it, okay? And that's it. And don't give energy to it anymore. There's a really, really great quote from the show Vikings. Stop looking back because you're not going that way. Okay? So also honoring the ancestors with the energy of the day, you may want to visit a cemetery. And if you're not down with that, that's okay too. Okay? So call in mind memories, consider ways that this loved one or loved ones continue to live on within you. And sometimes if it's like too soon or too raw, you don't have to focus on that, okay? If you don't want to sit in heavy energy, you don't have to do that, all right? Nobody says that you do, all right? And there's no roadmap to grief or anything like that either. All right, you don't have to be over certain things at a certain period of time. And I always get so angry when people say, well, just move on or just get over it. Like you're not having the same experience. So it's very easy for you to just like shrug it off with words like that. And I think it's very dismissive to people's pain. Yeah, I don't like it. But yeah, so if you don't want to visit a cemetery, if you don't want to revisit memories and reflect and things, you don't have to do that. All right? So you want to also guide the spirits. Okay, this is also an ancient ritual. I do this one myself too every Halloween. Place an orange or white candle in the west-facing window of your home. Okay, to guide the ancestors. Light the candle and let it burn through until the midnight hour. So you want to embrace the shadows also and honor the past. Okay, but like I said too, if you don't want to sit there, you don't have to sit there. And this doesn't have to be like a depressing down thing. If it is a depressing kind of down thing, then maybe you're not ready to like revisit and let it go yet. Right? Because you're still kind of hanging on to some of the emotions that go with it. But like I said, give it the visual of the suitcase and put that heavy shit down, man. Just put it down. You don't need it. You don't need it. And think of all the stuff. Like think if you're going on vacation, right? If you took every single one of those 20-pound bars out of your suitcase, look at all the room you have now to put cool stuff in from your vacation, right? Our energy field works much the same way. When we release and remove these old traumas and old energies and things like that, we're making room for good things to come in. Yeah. So, as the wheel of the year turns, it was like I said, this is the Witch's New Year. Samhain invites us to pause, reflect, and connect with the mysteries of life, death, and the unseen. It's a time to honor our ancestors, embrace the darker aspects of our existence, and prepare for the introspective journey that the winter months bring. Whether it's through a ritual, through feasting, or through creative activities, Samhain, or Halloween, offers you a space to engage with the deeper cycles of life and to find meaning in the endings and the beginnings that this season represents, and how that reflects into your own life. As you maybe light your candles or prepare your offerings or set intentions, because don't forget, this is a very powerful, powerful manifesting time, okay? Very, very powerful. And also, if you don't know, this particular Halloween is on a new moon in Scorpio. Okay, new moons are the perfect time for manifesting. So make sure you're setting your intentions. Write them down. Okay, do some manifesting. Focus on what it is that you want to bring into your life. Journal about it if you want to. Okay, that's always helpful too. But writing is so powerful for putting your intention out into the universe. All right, so light a candle, write your intention down. Yeah. And remember that Samhain isn't just about looking back and like being depressed at everything that has passed and all the people who have, but it's also about planting the seeds for what is yet to come. Right? Manifest, manifest, manifest. So I hope that your Samhain, your Halloween, is filled with magic, with love, with warmth, with wonderful memories, quiet anticipation of what's to come, and just, again, so much magic. All right. So I really hope that you guys enjoyed today's episode and you got something out of it. And I want to wish you just the happiest Halloween. Please have so much fun and stay so safe. Blessed Samhain. Again, don't forget to set those intentions. All right. Make your own magic, like I always say to you guys. I'm wishing you all, again, so much safety, so much fun. Have a wonderful, wonderful Halloween. I'll be thinking of you all. Love you so much. Thanks for the continued support. Stay magical. See you next week. Bye.